A great way to add a little color on these long winter days is to force woody plants to bloom out of season. Spring flowering trees and shrubs are great candidates for winter forcing because they produce their flower buds in the fall before the onset of winter. Now these buds during the winter months remain closed tight like this, and they require a period of cold in order to break dormancy. This is called their chilling time or chilling requirement. Once they've gone through a long enough cold period, we could bring them indoors into a warm climate and trick them into opening up earlier than what they would outdoors. Now our success in forcing woody plants to flower is going to vary depending on the species of plant that we select, how long of that chilling time they've experienced, and also how close it is to the time that they would bloom outdoors. The closer we are to their natural blooming time, the greater success we'll have. And for that reason, we want to start with some of our earliest flowering plants like witch hazel or forsythia. Flowering quince is also a nice early plant to force. Follow these with plants like dogwood, redbud, spirea, or even butterfly bush. We can also force the flowers on our fruit trees like our plums and our peaches. As I collect branches for forcing, I always take some cuttings that are a little bit longer than what I think I'll need. And this allows me a bit of flexibility when I'm selecting the vase size or making an arrangement. Now when you're taking cuttings, always practice good pruning techniques. You want to look for a bud. You want to cut back to a bud that's facing outside. We call it an outward facing bud because the new branch that'll come back is going to grow out away from the tree. Whereas if we chose a bud on the interior, the new growth is going to grow up into the canopy. So look for an outward facing bud. Another option is to cut the branch all the way back at a point where it naturally branches anyway. Now as I go through the selection process, I'm also going to look for material that needs to be removed anyway. This is a good example. This branch is growing up inside the tree, and so that would be a good one for me to remove. Perhaps it's not a coincidence that the best time to collect our cuttings for forcing overlaps with the best time for corrective pruning. When you bring your cuttings indoors, you want to make some fresh cuts at the base. Cut at an angle and place your stem in the water. And then look at it and identify, are there any buds that are underwater, or maybe there's some side branches. Go ahead and rub those off, or if you have to trim them, cut them off, and then you could place your stems in the water. And this one has a couple of little side branches that I want to pinch off. Now I took some pretty large cuttings, and I'll have to look at my vase and trim these back a bit. I think I'm just going to cut that into a few pieces. Just like our cut flowers, we want to change the water regularly to keep it fresh. And now we simply wait for these to open up and flower. And this could take several weeks. The plants we looked at earlier have been inside for about 3 weeks in the greenhouse, and some of these have opened, like the forsythia, our honeysuckle, and the quince, and others aren't quite there yet. Now of course the greenhouse is also a little bit warmer than most homes, so you have to be patient. One thing we can do while we're forcing our branches, before we put them in the vase, is to soak them in some cool water for about 2 hours. You could do this in the bathtub or just a tub of water like this. And you want to submerge the branches completely. And this has a couple of benefits. One thing it does is hydrate these stems before they're brought indoors, where it tends to be pretty dry in the winter time. It also softens the scale, the bud scale or the covering over our flower buds, and it allows it to open more fully. Winter forcing is a great way to add a little color to your home during the winter, and it also gets you walking outside in the landscape where you might find a few winter surprises.